I used to tell people all the time working in corporate or nonprofit environments, people tell you, leave your emotions at the door. It's work. Once you clock in, leave those things at the door. And I don't subscribe to that thought process, because now I am asking you to deny an aspect of your humanness, right? And become a robot to produce, to get the work done, right? So instead of leaving your emotions at the door, I will say, advocate for yourself.
Welcome back to Innovate or Evaporate, where we explore the relentless pace of change and the innovators who drive it. I'm your host, Toph. Imagine walking through the heart of a city, the concrete, the glass, the noise, and suddenly you're stopped in your tracks by a face. It's a mural, towers high in the air, labeled simply as keeper of culture. Who is that person? Where did they start? They certainly didn't start on that pedestal. I wonder if they started with a notebook in the 5th grade, knees shaking, clutching their pant legs so tightly their knuckles turned white, whispering lines about the stars because their voice felt too small for the room. In the world of business, we talk about capturing market share. But our guest today does something much more difficult. She captures the soul of a community. She is a woman who realized early on that if the world doesn't provide a stage for your truth, you don't just wait for an invite. You build the theater yourself. Mariah Ivey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I am so fired up. I first met you when you came over to Elevate Ventures for one of our workshops, right?
Yes,
And your whole approach of storytelling with poetry and literature, all those fun things. But before we start, we'll break a little glass here.
Let's do it.
I heard about these diss tracks that you used growing up. You 4 kids in the family?
Yes. I am the youngest of 4. And it's so funny because when you're the youngest and there's somewhat of an age gap, then you kind of feel ganged up on by your siblings. And so I would go to my room and I would write poems and raps about my siblings. That's kind of how this whole music career got started. I would write about them, and then I would take it a step further. I would go perform the rap for them, so they knew exactly who I was talking about.
Now, was that one-on-one or in front of the whole family? Was this a production in the living room?
This was a performance in the living room, or I would go take a personal visit to their bedrooms and share this rap with them. Most of the time, they just laughed in my face.
I love this. So there were 5 kids in my family, and I was the youngest as well. And I always felt ganged up on.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, why am I the joke? So I had to channel that energy, those emotions into the piece, and that's kind of how we got started.
Is there a favorite line or a funny line that you remember by any chance that you can share without them texting and calling you?
I can't really remember any of them. I'm sure they do though. I would be curious to know what they remember, but I do remember pointing out exactly what their hair looked like, what their clothes so you knew which sibling. I wouldn't say the name, but you knew which sibling I was talking about.
Who you were talking about. That is so awesome. I love it. So let's jump into this idea of storytelling, and I think you have 5 pillars of storytelling, and what you have, there's the hero's journey that a lot of film production follows. In business, storytelling is so important.
Yeah.
So let's start off with storytelling, how you think about it, and how your background with poetry and those types of things shaped your thoughts around it, and then we'll get into the actual pillars.
Yeah. So I think telling stories is one of my favorite things to do as a writer, as a poet. I think it's a very unique and special responsibility where you can tell your own story, right? And a lot of writers do start off doing that. But then as a writer, you also have a gift of telling other people's stories and to really step into their worlds and be a voice and be an advocate. And so I've enjoyed both sides of that. I think, honestly, telling my own story is something I gradually became more comfortable with. It was so much easier for me to take on other folks' stories and listen to the community and transcribe those things into a poem so it's, tangible for everyone else to consume. But once I got comfortable and in touch with my own truth. And I got comfortable with that power and vulnerability. That kind of changed the craft for me. So yeah, building poems and telling stories, that's...
So what are those stages that you think, you kind of have these pillars? What, you don't have to recite them all necessarily by words or whatever, but like help us, like, what are the building blocks of those pillars on how you attack that storytelling?
Mm-hmm. So it's so interesting that you asked that, because when I did the event for you all here and kind of using poetry to talk about my process in storytelling, I really had to think through what my process is, because most of it kind of comes to me innately. But when I thought about what sits at the helm, I realized that some of these things are very applicable to folks in the marketing world or just across industries. But that urgency is really important, right? And not to jump straight into those pillars, but they really do sit at the helm for me. Is urgency? Is it urgent? Why do I need to tell the story right now? Why is it important to tell this now in this season, in this climate or culture? Relevancy and resonance. I really want the things that I write about to resonate with folks.
Yep.
I want it to be relevant. I want it to matter in this moment, to be an artist that reflects the times, as Nina Simone would say. Creative rigor. I'm a writer, so I really enjoy being stretched and being challenged creatively. I don't want an easy undertaking. So if I can think about a concept that, will have me pondering, like, how would I attack this? How would I? That brings a lot of excitement to me. Making sure there's a personal connection, that I am excited about the topic, which makes me want to take time to really pour my all into it. And then really making sure there's an impact. I want to leave spaces better than they were when I first came, and that's important to me. So making sure the urgency and the relevancy all connect back to the impact. So those things sit at the center for me.
I love that, urgency and relevancy. That applies to, I read an article the other day that was just talking about like the consumer journey when we buy a product, when I buy a sweatshirt or a pair of shoes or whatever it is I am buying. And they were talking about the customer journey is very different. We used to think it required, 15 touch points and et cetera, et cetera. But why not just allow the consumer who is ready to buy, like provide them the opportunity to buy that thing.
Yeah.
And being relevant to them. I think that's interesting. Are there, what gives you the inspiration when you're going to write? How many poems do you write in a month?
I don't know.
Because they're all fluid.
Yeah, it varies. I mean, sometimes poems are flowing to me, songs are coming to me, and I'm getting them out there. And then there are months where I'm living and not writing. And I know that might be contrary to some writers who say, hey, if you're serious about your craft, you need to write every single day. That is not my approach to it.
Yeah.
I know folks get into seasons of what they call writer's block. I don't subscribe to writer's block, but I do feel like sometimes we write ourselves out of certain seasons. And so it's important for us to put the pen down and live. And when we live, we create and draw from new experiences that gives us more material, right? So there are some slow months where I'm just living my life. I'm going through the things. But yeah, a wealth of material for sure. Some things the world will probably never hear. Those will just stay with me. And then other times, something I'm not putting a lot of energy into turns out to be the thing that I perform all the time.
That sneaks up out of nowhere that you didn't think was a big deal, but it's
yeah.
brewing in your your subconscious and it ultimately comes out.
Yeah.
So there's a phrase that in the research, we were talking a little bit before we started here, but this concept we talk a lot about in business, like market fit, but there's a phrase that came up was like soul fit, and like soul as in the, as in the heart. And so it sounds like through all of these things that inspire you or don't inspire you, or maybe in the subconscious are inspiring you. How do you think about, when you look at various brands, do you look at things sometimes and think that was just forced? That's some kind of forced market fit, and there's really no authenticity or soul behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so interesting as a person who plays in language a lot, that sometimes when people are marketing something, they do feel if they package it with the right language, that it will resonate. And that is not always true, right? Because I think as a consumer, you can tell when something feels inauthentic, when it feels rushed, when it feels forced, when it just doesn't hit, right? You can feel that and you can see it. And so I think for me, the greatest kind of process in pushing out work that does resonate is for it to start with me, right? And for it to be something that I practice off stage, and live into off stage, so that it then flows on stage.
Yep.
And when you do that work behind closed doors, then there is no show. It's just who you are. And I think those are the things, the vulnerability, the truth, the authenticity that then resonates with the consumer.
So you've worked with some amazing brands as well, right? Throughout your history, the Jordan brand.
Yes,
And involved with some of the TEDx talks as well. So share with us maybe some of those experiences, how this translated, like what work did you do for the Jordan brand, and how that manifests itself or translate?
Yeah, so Jordan, man, that was just an incredible experience. 2025, Indianapolis hosted the WNBA All-Star. And so I was in a partnership with my good friend, Mariah Oliver, Mariah Square, we're both Mariahs. And she's the founder of Emboss and Behind the Screen Marketing. And so Mariah had this idea that she wanted to really serve and support women entrepreneurs, women artists over the summer during the WNBA All-Star. So she got a shop in Fountain Square. We did a temporary rental of that space. I transformed the front part of that space into a gallery that celebrated 7 women visual artists based in Indy. She transformed the back part of that space into a shop where you could come and purchase products from several women-owned businesses throughout the city. And in the course of marketing the space, the Jordan brand found us. And so they were coming here, and essentially they were like, hey, we want to do some of the things that you all are doing, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to work with you on those things. So they kind of had their own pop-up downtown in the Bottle Works area, but they called on us to curate the artwork. So we were able to bring indie artists into their space. And then I also did some moderating of some conversations with a couple of the players, and folks just connected to the league. And that was awesome to just have this conversation and talk about the intersections between sports, arts, fashion, culture, and why these things matter. So that was an incredible experience, and the team, they were amazing.
I love that you just talked about the intersection of all these different things, because it's so true. Like, more than ever, this idea of things cross-sector and disparate stakeholders, all these different folks who have different domain expertise, being able to come together in a collaborative, partnering nature is so critical.
Yeah.
Right, to advance something forward.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things you were involved in with TEDx?
So I did poetry for TEDx. TEDx, we hosted it some years ago. TEDx did something here in Indianapolis, and it celebrated Indianapolis women. And so I had the pleasure of coming and doing some spoken word there. And then Tamika Ketchen, she also spoke. She delivered a talk on that same program. And so that, again, another incredible opportunity to uplift women, to again find that intersection between poetry and arts and sports and storytelling, because that day really put 3 or 4 different women at the center and their stories in front of this audience to say, hey, it's okay to be vulnerable. Here's my story. Here's my journey. And hopefully something resonates with that crowd. And so it was awesome.
So for listeners out there that are feeling like they're just not, for some reason, they have all this stuff bottled up maybe inside of them. Their voice just isn't being heard. They're not breaking through with their storytelling. Are there any, you don't have to say who necessarily, but are any examples come to mind of folks that you've talked with in those moments, those vulnerable moments, or stories that you've heard about how people maybe took a step back and rethought, how they were approaching a situation, or whether it was with their own person, their own persona in their industry, or whether it was a product they were trying to bring to market, like where they took a pivot and this pivot actually worked. Does anything come to mind?
I'm sure there are many examples, especially in the art world, because as artists, we are queens and kings of the pivot, right? You got to stay on your feet. You got to stay on your feet and be able to move. So I know there are plenty examples. I would say one of the best examples, and I'll say from an artistic standpoint, from a live performance standpoint, has been artists that I know, as well as, being the artist myself who has prepared something for an audience. And in the moment, you realize you need to go a different direction. And that takes a lot of confidence and trust in yourself and in your craft. But also it takes some real-time connection with people to know what an audience might want or might need. And it requires you to throw out everything you just prepared,
that
everything you
just
practiced, right?
Yeah.
But see, this is also why you have to have it in your heart, right? Because when it's in your heart, then you don't think about it mechanically, right? You just do it. You have this message and you just do it. And I think artists sometimes second guess themselves, where it's like, no, you were born with this craft. So doing the art is the easy part, right?
Yeah.
Now, the things around the art, that intuitiveness, that comfortability, that those skills to connect and really listen to yourself, that trust, are the skills that sometimes you have to build. But I've come into shows and I know people who have done the same thing, and they've completely thrown out the list and went a different direction. And those are some of the most fun shows, in my opinion, because you're just in real time with the audience. Yeah.
I feel like we've all been trained to kind of think of pivot as like somehow kind of less than, maybe not a good thing, maybe not quite a bad thing, but like not a good thing. Pivot is beautiful.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, to be embraced. So it's about literacy a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, social media, and like social media has taught us to, by default, like think in such short clips. And also to have maybe a skewed vision of what reality or somebody else's truth, right? Because what we see in a picture or a clip is often very different than reality. How do you think about social media and maybe its impact of our creative culture, in the future? And then we'll come to another topic in a minute after we hit this. But how do you think that is? Do you see any impact on that in the creative world and poetry and literature, and not embracing those things as much as this culture of right now, like instant gratification?
Yeah. I mean, I think social media is beautiful in what it can do for creators, and how quickly the word can travel, how quickly the art form can travel, and how many more people can be impacted by sharing it with the world. I do think that is a very beautiful component of social media.
Yeah.
I do think, however, it's important that we balance it, right? Because I think in the same breath, It's easy for folks to fall into comparison. It's easy for folks to second guess their creativity because there are other people who are pumping out, creativity so quickly. People are consuming it today. They're on to something else tomorrow. And you might second guess whether it was actually good or not because people move on so quickly. And so I think it's important to have a really good balance, to know why you create and who you create for, so that those likes and those numbers and those shares don't stop you from still pursuing your craft.
Yeah, just following the dopamine hit.
Yeah. And it's hard not to, when you see people enjoying something, you're like, man, I really did it. Like, this is good. I feel proud. It's almost like I seen a video where it's like, you've created some really good content and now all you're doing is going back and looking at your story all day long. And you're looking at what you just posted all day long because you feel really good about it. But what happens when you post that next thing and it doesn't do the same kind of numbers, right? What happens when your audience is changing because you are changing, or your audience is growing because you're getting older, right? What happens when there are things happening in the world and people are more concerned or consumed with those things than what you're putting out, right? So you always have to pivot. And that's okay for social media world, but then you do have to reconcile that within yourself to make sure you are not creating for this solely, because it will make you feel depleted and exhausted at the end of the day.
Cursive writing. So we talked about this very briefly before we came on set here. So there's been studies associated with cursive writing, and especially early on, like the 4 or 5 years old and kind of maybe middle of elementary school, that the act of writing and understanding how letters flow and how they connect with one another, that there's a real brain development, the synapses connecting and creating more fluidity in our brains. Do you think there's any truth to that? Any reaction? I'm just curious about cursive writing versus, let's go straight to Snapchat, dopamine hits early on.
100%. And I would say not only cursive writing, but just writing in general, putting pen to paper, I think is so important. It is proven that like when you write things down, it helps you to retain information. And as an educator, as someone who has taught poetry and English and speech in high schools and has taught undergrad courses, I'm seeing, the use of technology is, it is slowing down sometimes the ability to retain, to tap on some of those mnemonic devices, right? I encourage people to write it down, just write it down, because it will help you memorize it. But it'll also help you to keep it in your heart, especially if you are a writer, a performer. Now I know folks are like, I write in my phone, I write on my laptop, I got to keep it moving. And I respect it. Whatever works for you works. But I will say there is a different kind of energy and comfort and performance when you have the information in your head, and so I do think that practice of writing and flowing through the letters and really, it goes straight to the brain. That's my thought. That's my 2 cents. So
yeah, I think you're probably right. So what all kinds of writing do you do? So poetry for sure, right? But you mentioned other types of literature, and did you even mention songwriting? Did you do songwriting?
Yeah. So I do music as well. I'm an MC, a vocalist, a budding bass player. We working on the guitar part.
That's awesome. I try to teach myself how to play guitar.
Yeah, it was hard, right?
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's a lot. It takes a lot. And I realized that when I love a thing, I can do the thing. If it doesn't come easy to me, I'm like excited about it today. And then I'm going to circle back a little later. We may not make it back. I'll say one of my favorite artists of all time is Lauryn Hill. And when I discovered her as a kid, and I seen that this woman is great at everything that she does. You know, most of the time when you have 3 or 4 gifts, you're really great at one, you're decent at the others, right? And in my opinion, I just thought she continues to be incredible at rapping, singing. She's a poet and she's a guitarist. And so a lot of people loved her Miseducation, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill album, great album. But it was her MTV Unplugged album that really stuck with me, where she played the guitar, she sung songs, she rapped. Some of them were finished, some of them weren't. But I wanted to be like her. So I bought a guitar because I said, I'm going to learn. I'm going to do all the things at the same time. I was going to lessons for a while. And then, you know, I put that guitar down, okay, because I said, I don't know if this is for me. I do want to learn. But yeah, so I started writing music first, actually, hence those 10-year-old diss tracks about the siblings. I started writing raps. And I come from a musical family. My mom is a singer. My aunts are singers as well. We grew up going to their recording sessions and experiencing them in the studio. My father is a drummer. My brothers are drummers. And so we grew up around music. And we were the kids where when we came to a family function, my mom is making us sing. Mariah, come sing that song. Marissa, come sing that song. Do the harmony parts. Like that was our upbringing. So music was always there. But poetry is where I really fell in love with language. And so the two have always been in tandem for me. So from growing up in Asante Children's Theater, huge shout out to Ms. Deborah Asante, to forming my own band, We Are Tribe Soul, and doing tons of shows as a band, to going on an East Coast poetry tour. I have always tried to do the things that feel good to me.
That's awesome. Do you play an instrument today then?
I said budding bassist.
Yes. Okay.
So no, I haven't brought an instrument on any stage that I have performed on, but behind the scenes, I'm working on it.
I love it. So I learned how to play the trumpet when I was a kid, and I always wish if I could do it over again that I would have done either guitar or keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Those are special instruments.
They really are.
Yeah, I thought I would love the acoustic guitar more, hence that's the first one that I bought. But when I went to Afropunk one year in Brooklyn, and I experienced this Black woman power jam, and it was a stage full of Black women in rock and roll. And there was one in particular, she had locks down to her ankles. I loved it. She had this hat on, this fedora, all Black, and she was the lead singer, but she was also playing the bass guitar. And I was like, wow, you don't normally see the lead playing bass.
I'm not sure if I've ever seen that.
Yeah, that was my first time experiencing it as well. And it was so powerful. It was so powerful because the bass, for me anyway, is almost like the heart of the band.
Right.
You know, it's missing something where there's no bass, right? And so I fell in love with hearing it, with seeing it. Even as I'm creating music with musicians, that is the line that I need to hear, right? I need to hear that bass and that drum kind of back and forth throughout these ears. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna buy a bass. I think I bought a bass maybe 2 days later. We're not gonna talk about how impulsive I get when I'm inspired about something, but
that is so awesome. I do the same thing, right? I'm like, I went and bought an electric keyboard.
Oh my gosh.
I want to teach myself. I sat in front of this window, beautiful view of the trees, and we get inspired. Yeah. It lasted a month, maybe.
Yes, that's so funny because I'm the same way. I'm like, you know, the aesthetics. Like, if I set the space, let me get my studio room together. I got the guitars on the wall and the keyboard, and it smells good, and it's all the things. And then it becomes a beautiful space to look at every day.
And then people come to your house like, oh, you play?
Yeah, well,
not so much.
Let's just shut this door and let me take you to another room.
That is so awesome. I love it. Okay, now I feel better about myself. I'm not the only one.
We're going to learn. In 2026, we are going to do better.
I love it.
I'm Mayor Chris Jensen. Innovation is accelerating across Indiana. In Noblesville, that momentum is taking shape along Innovation Mile, an emerging performance innovation district where organizations like USA Gymnastics, Indiana Orthopedic Institute, and Caterpillar are advancing the future of human and industrial performance. Supported by Noblesville Economic Development, it's a place built for companies ready to grow. Explore Innovation Mile at choosenoblesville.com/innovate. Noblesville, all about you.
So I want to go back to the keeper of the culture with all of this.
Yeah.
How did that come about? I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Not very many people have a mural of their face, right?
Yeah. I'm still pinching myself, honestly. Sometimes I drive past it and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this is, wow. Why are we? It's too much. But it's so beautiful, and I'm so grateful. 2021, I got an email from Molly and Alan Bacon, the founders of GangGang.
Yep.
And they sent me an email, and it was very vague. And they said, hey, can you send us a couple of photos of yourself? No context. I'm like, just any photos? Like, what's it for? Like, no context whatsoever. And I remember the subject line said, art about you. And so blindly, but very trustingly, I sent some photos. And then later on, I got a little bit more information. And I want to say that information came just before, a little bit before the unveiling of it, that it was going to be a 3D mural painted by none other than the Ashley Nora. And it would honor myself and several other amazing people. And I didn't know what to think about that. I just, when you're working and you're creating and you're trying to impact the spaces you're in, you're never thinking about what will come of it. You're never thinking about the accolades of it or anything like that. You are thinking about, how am I healing and connecting and loving on people right now in this moment?
Yep.
How am I leaving this space better than before I came? And I think seeing that mural was kind of like confirmation that the work I've been doing is resonating, that it is leaving an impact, that my city sees me in a way. And then to be on that mural with such giants was the greatest honor, is the greatest honor. So yeah, I don't know. I've been holding on to it. I think about it from time to time. I drive past it and I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. And a constant reminder to just keep doing the work.
Yeah.
When it's hard, when it's challenging, when you're up against various things, keep doing the work because the reward is so much greater.
When we think about the phrase keeper of culture, what does that mean to you?
I think to be a keeper of culture, you have taken on the responsibility, knowingly or unknowingly, because it might be innate, right? To spread love, to share the truth, to bring people together in the name of community and joy and safety and healing and renewal, that you have decided to use your gifts for good. And by using your gifts for good, you are changing the world. You are changing cities. You are changing lives.
You just gave me chills. So when you think about Indianapolis, did you grow up in Indianapolis?
I did. Yeah.
So when you think about Indianapolis, and I won't ask how old you are, but as you've grown up and become a young adult and all those fun things, what do you think our soul is as a city? Like, what are your observations of who are we? Because every city and geographic area kind of have their own unique attributes, right? I think Austin used to be Keep Austin Weird. I think it was Austin or somewhere. You have Silicon Valley. That's kind of a different, scenario. Like, what do you think is unique or true to us as our culture, or even Indiana?
Yeah. Man, I think Indy has been on a journey to figure out who she is for a long time. And I would say that from a broader perspective, we have been looked at as the underdogs. This is a place, a state, and more specifically a city that houses so much talent, so many creative people. And we have also been looked at as, because all of this creativity exists, but we haven't always had the infrastructure to properly harness that talent or retain that talent, people feel or have felt that they need to move, right? I need to go to New York, Atlanta, the big cities to really thrive and make it. And so I think we've been on a quest to reshape that narrative, to say, we have the things, we are doing the things, we have always been here doing the things, and it's time that we center ourselves a little bit more in this narrative. So I would say, like, Indy is the underdog that is going to always come out on top because we possess the kind of people to do it.
Just execute.
To execute, yeah. And I think something that's really unique about us is that, we have, I don't know, it's interesting where, you can kind of get to every side of town within 30 minutes, right? That's special because a lot of these places you can't. And the beautiful part about the ease of travel to some degree is that there's a lot more connectivity there. There's a lot more. It's hard for me to go somewhere without recognizing at least 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
That's special because we're building, even though there are pockets of communities and various circles, we're still, at the end of the day, this big, small community. And it's kind of easy to tap on who you need to tap on and go where you need to go. And I think that's the same thing about our creative scene, too. We know where the venues are. We know where the shows are. So we can find the art. We can find the art. And we know people by name. I think that's special because in larger places, it's a little easier for you to become just another one. Just another person doing this thing. And here we really do recognize people by name.
2 words I think about a lot are like opportunity and accessibility. And in some markets, you get one or the other. Yeah. But I feel like you get both here. Are there any thoughts or ideas you haven't had the chance to share yet in other platforms? Like, what should leaders throughout Indianapolis or even Indiana, but what should they be thinking about that maybe they're not? Or how do they better connect or collaborate or partner with each other to bring all the various pieces and parts up, right? Whether it's philanthropy or the arts or business or infrastructure. When you think about all those things and the different organizations that we have, what could be done maybe more efficiently? Does anything come to mind on how leaders could maybe better collaborate?
Yeah. Honestly, move at the speed of relationships.
Yep.
People and relationships are our greatest assets. And I think a lot of folks forget that. They're often moving transactionally. I need a service, I need a thing, I need to fill this gap, I need someone who can do X, Y, Z. And I think all those skills are great. But when we do take the time to build good relationships and really get to know people, that is the way that good work is produced. That's the way that it is sustained. That is how we build longevity. And that is really how we build and sustain support right?
Yep.
And I think it is so important because I see a lot of folks leading and they may have the skill set to do the things on paper, but I don't see a lot of us really building community and building relationships outside of services and all of the things, but building relationships. And I think in building relationships, it requires you to be vulnerable.
Yes.
It requires you to share of yourself. But when we can take off the facade sometimes, and we can take off the titles and the I'm this person who does this, you know, and we can just be ourselves and realize, hey, we are all having a human experience.
Exactly
we are
right.
all having a human experience, and it is okay, right? We do the same things, and it's okay to talk about them, right? When we humanize ourselves and we move through vulnerability, it really does build trust, because trust isn't built overnight. And we see so much turnover in places
Right.
because we move in a very transactional way. So I would just challenge everybody across industries to build relationships and move at the speed of relationships.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard the phrase "move at the speed of relationships," and I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I'm a massive believer in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never heard that phrase, and that is so powerful on so many levels.
Mm.
It's sometimes you see human nature kind of, there's some sharp elbows thrown around and kind of people stepping on somebody's shoulders to kind of
Yeah.
advance themselves, and we can go so much farther together.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
So that kind of leads right into like the vulnerability of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, traditionally, and I think this is shifting, but traditionally, like, especially in business, like the CEOs were expected to kind of have this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, bulletproof kind of persona or mantra, if you will. But with your entire medium around poetry, like, requires the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about that? Do you think we're going to see this trend
Mm-hmm.
hold and stick and have longevity?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about leadership, and maybe some leaders out there that can't quite seem to let themselves go and
Mm-hmm.
maybe be just more human?
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, I would encourage leaders, CEOs, whatever your title is, to go to more art events. Because I think those are precisely the spaces that give you permission to practice vulnerability, to practice humanizing yourself. You get to go to an event and enjoy it, right? What does it mean to just allow your body to relax, to smile, to genuinely laugh, right? Go to a comedy show, go to something that allows you to take those external protective mechanisms off for a second. And I think when you get in the habit of practicing, especially through art events, then you start to incorporate it into your everyday life. And sometimes you need to see other people practice it in order for you to. And we need examples, and it's okay, right? And so I would say that is one of the first places that you can try it out at. And I do think if we can get more people to do it, then we will start to see more leaders say the things that once upon a time they were always told not to say out loud. Right. I used to tell people all the time, working in corporate or nonprofit environments, people tell you, leave your emotions at the door. It's work. Once you clock in, leave those things at the door. And I don't subscribe to that thought process, because now I am asking you to deny an aspect of your humanness, right? And become a robot to produce, to get the work done, right?
Yeah.
So instead of leaving your emotions at the door, I will say, advocate for yourself. Maybe I am having a rough morning. So instead of trying to suppress it, which we know suppression only builds up later on.
Oh, right.
And is
Powder
destructive,
keg.
right? In a lot of ways. Instead of suppressing it, let me advocate for myself by saying, hey, I need 10 minutes. Hey, can we reschedule this meeting? Because I'm not in the best mental space to have it, or I need some alone time if you all can give me a moment. When we start to express our needs, when we can name our needs, right, then we give people an opportunity to practice that exchange of honesty, of vulnerability, of trust, right, of boundaries. And when we shut it down, it doesn't benefit anyone, right? So I think we'll get to that place, hopefully.
I love it. So you just mentioned trust, and so that leads right into this idea, like trust is it's currency.
Yeah.
It's so hard to build, and it's so easy to spend. How to, when we think about, how we transform, whether it's businesses or neighborhoods, communities, how do you bring people along, and so they trust in the process? Because we all think different things, right? That's human nature. But like, how do we spend that currency wisely to spread or embrace more trust amongst all the constituents, with whatever it might mean? People are doing all kinds of projects and community building, et cetera. What kind of, when you think about trust and community building, maybe I'll phrase it that way. What are some best practices for folks to think about?
Yeah, to be intentional, first and foremost, to move with intention, meaning take some time, be thoughtful about the things that you want to do and how you want to work with people and include them, and then be thoughtful all the way through, right? Sometimes people have ideas. I want to do this thing. I have this project, and I want community to be involved, right? But then community is only involved in one particular part of the project versus throughout the project. And I think in that way, a lot of times community members are used as subjects, as research, and not an inherent part of the methodology and the praxis of it, right? So you need to bring people into the entire thing. So if we're brainstorming about a thing, let's talk about it. Let's get community voice, okay? Because you also can't be, most times we are not the ones with the greatest ideas, right? But when we surround ourselves with other folks and give ourselves an opportunity to bounce ideas off of other people, then we not only highlight and uplift and center other voices, but 9 times out of 10, we come out with a way better outcome than if it was just us, right?
1,000
So
times
including
better.
them in the entire process, making sure it's not transactional, like I said, and it's really based in relationships.
I love that phrase you said a moment ago about not using community as research, but truly being a part of the process.
Yeah, because we love to, and especially in the arts world, folks love to have, what do you call them? Small focus groups to say, hey, I'm going to bring community together because I want their input on this thing we're designing. But then they come and they give you these ideas, and then they're not engaged in the rest of the process. They only get to see the outcome. Right. So, and then in this case, they were used as research. But I really feel like if we involve them, if we actually say, hey, tell me more about that idea. What would you like to see happen? If you could, walk with them, talk with them, be in relationship with them, it's better for us all.
It's absolutely amazing. So this takes us into the part of some rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Before I dive into that, is there any topic today that we haven't covered that you're like, I really want to make sure people know about X, whatever it might be?
Not per se when it comes to my work, but I do want people to, if they walk away with nothing else from my work, or whether you are experiencing it here or you experience it on stage, I just want to encourage people to love people well, to be kind, to spread the love, to spread the kindness, because those are the things that also make our community so much better. Yeah.
It's such a basic concept, right?
It's so basic. Oh my gosh.
It's so interesting how humans can kind of muck it up,
Yeah, because we got our things. We all have our things. We're all always thinking about our own things, right? And we're moving in this this urgency. But are the things really urgent?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a question that a lot of us have to sit with. Is it urgent? Why am I moving so fast? What happens and how does our brain and our bodies and our worlds drastically shift when we realize it's okay to take our time? It's okay to pause. It's okay to think. It's okay to have this conversation and engage these folks. And actually, it's worth my time and investment, right? And I think that psychologically changes some things for the better. So I'm not surprised that people don't practice kindness and love because they're so consumed with the urgency. We got to step out of that rhythm and regulate, you know?
I love that. I love that. You just gave me chills. That's awesome. So, all right, we're going to jump into some. Well, now we just talked about taking some time, and now I'm going to go. And now I'm going to use the word rapid fire.
Rapid fire. I don't know.
So take your time, right? Take a step back. So just a few high-level questions. I always am so fascinated by the things that people think about with these questions. So the first one would be, what is one thing, and you've been involved in a lot, so you can pick whatever you want, but what is one thing that you think people should stop doing in your industry?
Selling themselves short. I think creatives, artists should give themselves more credit, not only for what they produce as creatives, but the skill set required to do said thing.
Yes.
At the magnitude that we do it, and charge what you need to charge for that to feel comfortable and to feel, taken care of. So
I love that. What is one trait or one thing that people could do in your thoughts to disrupt themselves, like to innovate themselves or disrupt themselves? Like, what is one thing that people could do to disrupt themselves?
Just one?
Or multiple, however many you want.
Again, getting out of the rhythm of urgency and really practicing self-regulation. I encourage people to read more books, maybe take some breaks from social media, go on more walks in nature. I love making tea because it forces you to slow down and to be intentional with how you make it. So get into some practices that allow you to sit with yourself and sit with your thoughts. Also, sitting with your thoughts so that you know that these particular thoughts are your own and not subconsciously coming from all the other things you consume. Yeah, I'll stop there.
That's powerful. All right, here's the last question. If you could wave a magic wand and solve any problem in the world.
Oh, wow.
What would it be?
There are so many. There are so many, Toph. Any problem in the world, I am going to go with the first thing that is on my spirit right now in this moment, and especially in this country, and especially in this city, is homelessness. And the criminalization of homelessness. I would love to change that in some way.
Amazing. Mariah Ivey, thank you so much for joining Innovate or Evaporate. You inspire me. When I watched your presentation there, a couple of months ago, maybe now, you're an amazing human. You are the keeper of culture in Indianapolis. And thank you so much for joining the show. You're truly inspiring, and I cannot wait to build on this relationship in the future.
Wow. Thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, thank you so much. And until next time, we'll see you soon on Innovate or Evaporate.